Hey VCers, it's Matt again, second time on a Monday night. Thought I'd do another video. Wanted to congratulate Paige Martin on her 500 subs and her channel. It's a great channel you got there, Paige. There's several VC members who always, every time they have a new video pop up, I always look forward to it because I know it's always going to be a good one, and you're in that group. So congratulations. I know you're going to get a lot more subs. You have a contest going on that's to name your top 5 Pink Floyd albums. So I thought I'd like to weigh in on that. I'm going to remove myself from the winning the prize part of that, if that's okay, just because I have, like I've said several times, several years ago I sold a lot of my albums, not all of them, but the Pink Floyd stuff was sold off years ago, and I do want to replace those with vinyl copies. Just have not gotten around to it. So at this time I have a grand total of 3 Pink Floyd albums. 2 of them are on vinyl and 1 is CD. So I did make my list of my top 5 of their records. I have their stuff on my iPod, but I don't have the physical albums to show, with the exception of 3 of them, and 1 of them is not in my top 5 list anyway. But so yeah, Pink Floyd. The thing about Pink Floyd is, after they start off with 67, Syd Barrett is the man. He's writes the songs, sings the songs, plays lead guitar. Their first album, there's 1 song by Roger Waters, and there's a song or 2 that's credited to the whole group, a couple of the instrumentals. And Richard Wright, in the early days, did write a couple of the B-sides of the 45s. But by and large, it was Syd's show. So then Syd's not well. He has to go away, unfortunately, after the first album and the first, 3 45s. So all of a sudden, they go out and they get Dave Gilmour to replace him, but they, you know, don't really know what to do. It takes them a while to find their footing, because when you think of Pink Floyd, or not so much people on the VC, but your average Joe Blow, when he thinks of Pink Floyd, he or she isn't really familiar. Most of them aren't really familiar with those early albums. Most people, when they think of Pink Floyd, they're thinking of Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, The Wall, and maybe the later stuff like Division Bell and maybe Animals. So after the first album, the band sort of takes them a while to find their footing. They struggle. They just, throw in everything in the kitchen sink, throw stuff against the wall to see what will stick. Some of it does, some of it doesn't. They do some experimental stuff. They're still putting out 45s, trying to get a hit early on. A lot of those great non-album 45s from the late 60s and up through about 70, 71. Paintbox, Julia Dream, Point Me at the Sky, and stuff like that. Great stuff. I love all that stuff. They're doing these longer, weird, experimental things on their albums, trying to find their footing. Roger Waters isn't really fully developed as a songwriter yet. In those early days, Richard Wright is still writing quite a few songs, which that kind of diminished by the time they got to, say, Wish You Were Here. I think he wrote a song or 2 on Dark Side of the Moon, which was a shame because he was a pretty good songwriter. But so yeah, you got this weird in between their first album to Dark Side of the Moon, where you have these sort of hodgepodge experimental weird albums, and then they hit with Dark Side of the Moon, and that's when they become super mega famous, I guess, and those are the things that most people know them for. Well, for me, they're a lot more fun and a lot more interesting in that kind of looking around and trying to figure out who they are period than they were from Dark Side on. Personally, I don't, Dark Side, it's okay. It's a good album. It's okay. I like Wish You Were Here when I'm in the mood for it. I like Animals. Stuff after that I'm not a big fan of, but it's that early period after the first album, for me. So without further ado, I don't have this one to show, but Metal would be number 5, and I like I didn't write down the songs I like on there. Saint Tropez and Echoes is be a couple of the songs I like off of that. Number 4 would be More. Their I think it was their third album, which was a soundtrack to a movie. I love that album because it's just so many different styles of music. Just a strange mix that don't seem like they would mesh or fit together well, but they do in a weird sort of way. It also has some of their hardest rocking songs that the band ever did on there. But off of More, some of my favorite songs are Cymbeline, the Nile song, Up the Khyber, which is kind of a weird jazzy, freeform jazz sounding thing. Ibiza or Ibiza Bar, not sure how you say that. My number 3, and I don't have a copy of More, unfortunately. My number 3 favorite album would be the band's second album, Saucer Full of Secrets. There's a copy of that, and this is my copy of this is on red colored vinyl. So yeah, their second album, The Ghost of Syd Barrett, is still there because he actually plays on 2 or 3 songs here, even though he had officially left the band by the time this was actually released, I believe. And the last song on here is the last Syd Barrett Pink Floyd song, Jug Band Blues. But he plays, that's the only writing credit he has on the album. But he plays on, I used to know this, but I think he plays on Let There Be More Light, Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, and maybe Saucer Full of Secrets, or maybe it's Seesaw. But so he plays on 2 or 3 of the songs. They kind of try to repeat the formula of their first album somewhat. With the first album had a mix of short and sweet kind of psychedelic pop tunes, and then longer, drawn out sort of psychedelic spacey jams. So this tries to repeat that in that you have several longer songs like that, Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun and Saucer Full of Secrets, which they don't sound like, but they sort of the form and style of a couple of the longer songs on the first album. Corporal Clegg by Roger Waters is sort of, he still hadn't developed fully as a songwriter at this point, so it's kind of Roger Waters in my mind trying to write in the style of Syd Barrett. It's a goofy song, and I really love it though. It's a lot of fun. But my favorite songs on Saucer Full of Secret are Jug Band Blues, the Syd Barrett song, Corporal Clegg I like, and Remember a Day, Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, and Saucer Full of Secrets are good. I mean, it's pretty much everything on this album's really good. I like this one a lot. So, and they would, it's different than they would kind of move past this and would never really make an album like this again. So number 2, which I also don't have unfortunately, Atom Heart Mother, which I love because it has a cow on the cover, so you can't not love the thing. But the side long song on there, the Atom Heart Mother Suite, is I like that song a lot. It goes on a little too long. It could have used a little bit of editing maybe, but it's still a great song. But on side 2, you got 2 songs, Summer 68 and Fat Old Sun. Both of those are, in a better world, those would have been hit records. They're just great little pop singles. They sound a lot like the Kinks, and just a couple of great songs. So Atom Heart Mother would be number 2. My favorite Pink Floyd album, and it's, well, my favorite Pink Floyd album, and I don't have it on vinyl, got it on CD, and I've got another CD copy of this too, but their first album, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, which is also one of my, this would be my top 5 albums of all time, one of my favorite records of all time. So there's, the great Syd Barrett. This is one of those just perfect albums, and Summer '67, it's one of the premier, maybe the best, or one of the best psychedelic albums ever made. It just really captures the psychedelic spirit in a lot of ways that, a lot of albums that are billed as psychedelic really don't, in my opinion. It's kind of childlike in its simplicity, but a little disturbing at the same time. So there's really not a bad song on here, but my favorites would be Bike, Lucifer Sam, Interstellar Overdrive, Astronomy Domain, don't know how you say that, and everything else really. Chapter 24 of the Gnome, it's all great. What I like about this is the deluxe edition CD thing that came out a few years back. You get disc 3 that has a lot of the early singles: Arnold Lane, See Emily Play, Apples and Oranges, Candy in a Currant Bun, and a couple of little rarities there. So Piper at the Gates of Dawn, which is really and truly this Pink Floyd and the Pink Floyd that followed after Sid left, or two entirely different bands, but that's one of my favorite albums of all time, and definitely my favorite Pink Floyd album. Favorite member of Pink Floyd is Sid, obviously. So yeah, past that, well, I did show this, and I will show this is one that a lot of people consider their worst album. It's a very one album is a live album, which as far as live albums go, it's okay. There's better Pink Floyd bootleg live stuff out there than this one, but it's not bad. The first album's a live album. Second album is the studio album, and each of the four members get their own half of a record to do what they want to do, and it's just this very strange, weird, experimental. There's not really songs per se, but it's very one of those records that's going to send a lot of people, would clear the room. I like it a lot. I actually love this album. It's goofy and it's weird. It's not something that I listen to very often. You have to be in the mood to listen to it. I like the studio side more than I do the live side. It's very odd and experimental, and I really enjoy it when I'm in the mood. Sometimes just nothing else will do. So if we were going, this would probably be number 6 for me. The rest of it, Dark Side of the Moon, I appreciate the artistry there. I was never a huge fan of the album. And I said I do like Animals and Wish You Were Here when I'm in the mood for them. Probably Wish You Were Here and then Animals in that order. But there you go. So Pink Floyd, yeah, and I need to get some more of these things on vinyl. And it's just so many records and so little money and time. I'll get to them eventually, but congratulations on your 500 subs, Paige, and have a good one, everybody.